Ohio State and Wisconsin will be rematching in the Big Ten championship game for the fourth time. Yes, the fourth time. Today we are going to be talking about my anticipated matchup between Ohio State and Wisconsin, my prediction for that, in the Big Ten championship game for the 2021 football season. If you are curious as to why I picked these two teams, I made two videos discussing the West and East division of the Big Ten, who I think will finish where, and their record and schedule predictions, what I liked about certain teams. And in the end, I have Wisconsin coming out on top on the West with a 12-0 finish and a 9-0 conference record, and Ohio State coming out at 11-1 with an 8-1 conference record. Though things could bounce either way, and these are just predictions, this is just a fun way to kind of just walk through what I think the most likely matchup is. And I think really that this will be a tough game. I think that Wisconsin has made some major headway when it comes to dealing with Ohio State, from starting off getting obliterated 59-0 under Gary Anderson to now having at points where they have kind of frightened Ohio State under Paul Chryst. Wisconsin does have a shot here, but they need to get over some humps, and we're going to discuss those humps. We're going to discuss reasons why Ohio State and Wisconsin both can win, and in the end, I am going to give my final prediction as to who I think will win this game. So to start off, we're just going to discuss why Ohio State has a great shot to win. And that is Ohio State always has a solid offense, and offense is what wins you games so far in this era of football. This is an offensive renaissance. Ohio State scored about six touchdowns a game in 2020, and they were in the national championship game. Alabama scored about 49 points a game, which is second in the nation, and they were in the championship game. They were the national champions, in fact. Clemson scored 44 points a game, and Clemson was in the playoff as well. And Clemson only had the 18th ranked defense. Ohio State had the 43rd ranked defense. Alabama had the 13th. None of these teams had top 10 defenses whatsoever. Notre Dame didn't even have a top 10 defense. They had the number 14th defense and the 30th offense. So no playoff teams here had top 10 defenses. Defense doesn't win you national titles. It just doesn't. This is not the Jim Tressel, Les Miles, Mark D'Antonio era anymore. Defense is important. Don't get me wrong. Defense can win you games, but in the end, a team with a solid elite offense, when it comes to winning national titles in this era, is far more likely to win a national title than a team with a solid elite defense. Just far more likely. Last year's proven it. The previous year proved it with LSU. And really, that's just the era we are in. We are in an offensive renaissance, and Ohio State has consistently proven that they can develop quarterbacks and wide receivers, the O-line to protect the quarterback and give him time to pass. Their running back room is loaded. I think they have like 3 to 4 potential starters, all of whom would do well against any Big Ten team. Period. Amen. Ohio State's offense is just absolutely loaded, and the Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson duo should prove that altogether. Enough said. And the fact that Justin Fields and Dwayne Haskins were both, in college at least, absolutely amazing. Both were under Ryan Day when he was either a coordinator or currently the head coach. So Ohio State's offense is simply by itself a reason, not even necessarily their individual coordinators either, which brings me to reason number 2. Their position coaches, arguably, especially Larry Johnson, are the better. Their staff is better than Wisconsin's, and reason number 3 too would probably be that their talent is far better than Wisconsin's. The staff can somewhat be disputed because Wisconsin has to work with less. And I think Paul Chryst is a great coach simply for what he has done with less. But Wisconsin is lacking in offensive production. Last year they were 89th in the nation. And although they do return a lot of offensive starters, they are lacking previous production execution, while they did have a top 10 scoring defense. Again, Wisconsin had a top 10 scoring defense, but it didn't matter. They finished 4-3. Offensive renaissance. Ohio State has, you have Greg Studwara, you have Larry Johnson, you have Kevin Wilson, you have Kerry Coombs, you have Brian Hartline. You have all of these insane elite coaches that are probably going to be with these same jobs for a while, because why would you leave Ohio State? They're constantly winning Big Ten titles. No one in the Big Ten can challenge them, and that's proved by the fact that Ryan Day has not lost a regular season game, let alone a regular season conference game yet. Just hasn't. Ohio State's very dominant. They also do, I would argue, this could be counted as reason number 4, but I'm not going to count it as a reason. I'm just going to mention it. Wisconsin hasn't beaten Ohio State since 2010, and they've met several times since then. And at this point, like Ohio State does kind of with everyone else in the Big Ten, Ohio State just kind of has a mental lock probably on the Badgers at this point that will be very hard to break. So those are all the reasons as to why Ohio State likely will win. And the main reason, of course, is the offense and talent and coaches. The last reason I just mentioned, because it's something small, but the small things in the big games are very important. They often shape it out. A dropped pass can mean a multitude of things. A big hit like Clowney against Michigan in the Outback Bowl, and I say this as a Michigan fan, big hits can change the tide of games. They can wake up your defense and offense and tell them, hey, we have a chance. Look what we just did to this guy. Let's do that. Let's destroy this team like our defensive end destroyed that specific player on the other side of the field. So that's Ohio State's reasons, but you got Wisconsin too, and Wisconsin doesn't have nearly as many reasons, and that brings me to say, before I make my official prediction, Wisconsin will for sure be the underdog, and statistically, and also by previous record, Ohio State is likely going to beat Wisconsin. If you were to simulate the entire season with talent, with just taking into fact that like the different successes of these two teams over the past 10 years, I really don't know how to say that, because I'm not a computer and I don't really know how the FPI and all that is specifically calculated. But if you were to take all these factors in, Ohio State would probably beat Wisconsin. They'd easily beat them more than 1 out of 2 times. They'd probably beat them like 8 out of 10 times. Probably 80% of the time, or 90 more likely, Ohio State would win. And Wisconsin only would have a greater chance to win the more Ohio State would beat them because of margin of error and all that stuff. But anyway, enough with me rambling on about that. Wisconsin's only reason is if really it involves Ohio State. If Ohio State's quarterback is not great, if he somehow pans out to be good, if Ohio State gets the misfortune of not having a Dwayne Haskins at college level or a Justin Fields, Wisconsin's returning defensive production could put them in a position to win without having to have an elite offense. Though this is very unlikely, and it depends on Ohio State failing here, so it's not necessarily the entire reason. But another reason is if Graham Mertz steps up and is what he appeared to be in the first half of last season. Now, granted, he was facing weaker defenses. We know that Michigan's defense was one of the worst in the nation. Same with Illinois'. But he did make some good throws. I was actually watching the Northwestern-Wisconsin game earlier today. I was watching the highlights of that, and he made some good throws. There was one where he was pressured, forced out of the pocket, and just kind of made a light, aired-out pass, and it went for a touchdown. So Graham Mertz does have potential, and I do think he'll be the best quarterback that Paul Chryst has had at Wisconsin. But if he needs to step up to blue chip level in order for Wisconsin to win, if Wisconsin wants to win without having to rely on misfortunes against Ohio State, Graham Mertz and the offense have to step up. And that will be challenging, especially when Graham Mertz, I think, had a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, or close. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Joe Rudolph needs to step up. And there have been some people who say that with Barry Alvarez retiring from AD, I know Mike Farrell said this too, that Wisconsin does have a greater chance of switching up their offense and going more pass-oriented. Don't really understand the whole concept of how that works, but it kind of makes sense, as Wisconsin has been traditionally a run-heavy team, and maybe with an old football coach as athletic director stepping down, there could be some changes made, more possibly. But Wisconsin doesn't have many reasons besides Graham Mertz potentially stepping up or Ohio State having misfortunes. Wisconsin will probably have the far better defense, not just statistically, but in practice next year. But again, that doesn't matter too much with Ohio State's massive offensive potential. Ohio State totally has the chance to be the best offense in the nation. There is no doubt that Ohio State could have the best defense in the nation. And Ohio State also could have the best defensive line in the nation, along with an entirely top offense as well. So, as you probably guessed it by now, my prediction is that Ohio State wins the Big Ten championship game, probably by, at minimum, a touchdown. At most, I'd say 14 to 17 points. Wisconsin will keep it close, and this will be the best team Wisconsin has by record since 2017, and probably the best team since 2017, period, amen. But it won't be enough. Ohio State will win again. And with how Ohio State's beaten the Badgers for the past decade, even if Wisconsin looked to be by far the better team next year, I can't predict that Wisconsin will upset Ohio State this early in the season. Ryan Day is too early in his coaching career to be worn down or breaking down or causing any kind of decay in Ohio State. There was some slack seen last year on all sides of the ball. Ohio State's defense did drop the ball, and really Justin Fields didn't statistically have as good of games, but he again tore up a really good Clemson team, and among other things. So we just don't know. It's too early for me to call a Wisconsin upset here. Ohio State will win, and that's really all I have to say for today. If you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe and comment your thoughts down below and hit the notification bell so you can watch more of my videos. Thank you, and have a good day.